There you go. So I have the privilege of introducing Tatiana Morin, who's the director of the New York City Urban Soils Institute. And she'll be talking about New York City as a role model. And the title for her talk is Soils for All and All for Soils. And Tatiana's interest in soils comes because she's humbled by the complex interconnectedness of life through soils, how soils provide a holistic lens through which we can connect our cultures, disciplines, and backgrounds, and how similar we are, in fact, to soils. And so, Tatiana, you've got 20 minutes. We're going to leave 5 minutes at the end for question and answer because we're not going to have a panel, just she missed this panel. So we're going to have a special question and answer period just for her before we break for lunch, I think. Or, oh, we're going to be doing breakout discussions after that. So Tatiana, you can take off.
I will share my screen and take off. All right, that looks good. Okay, so I just want to start off by saying thanks to the Tree People and Rich Puyat for creating this opportunity to meet all these wonderful people. It's really exciting to be here because I think the Soil Symposium offers a bright spot, a kind of down-to-earthness that we all need right now. And it's great to get together with soils, especially through people. It always offers an interesting journey. And after all, like I mentioned before, I think we're all so similar to soils. So through people and soils, it's a great beginning. In this talk, I will try to give you a bird's eye view of what the Soils Institute is, how we came about, and how it's grown into a platform, basically a soils movement in response to the people. It's become a place for exchange, a shift in mentality, a grounding zone, a soils resource clearinghouse really, and most of all, a place where we get together to work together and learn together and changes together, to stitch together different disciplines and sectors, backgrounds, and cultures through soils. I really believe that this is where the sciences and humanities are really inseparable. It's a platform for the people, by the people, where the platform is always soils and offering opportunities for holistic investigations and approaches. Because I think really it's passé, the time for reductionist learning, reductionist approaches. So what makes the USI kind of unique, I think, is that it's a platform that's really not owned by anybody. We really are forever changing and always adapting and forging change in how we work together and understand and treat our common resource. So it's really a place for everybody to be involved. So I hope that through this PowerPoint, we can share what we learned, and hopefully that will help to everybody in some way. I will not be able to cover everything we do. I still don't know how to create an elevator pitch for the USI, but I won't be able to cover everything today, but I'm very happy to take on questions and comments and continue the conversation even after this symposium. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know anything extra. We do have a core team that kind of drives the engine of the USI, but we really feel that our team is everybody who gets involved, because that's where the real growth and magic and stimulation comes from. The people that help us build the plane while we're flying it, because that's honestly how we go from day to day. So a little bit about the history of how we came about. Before the 2000s, there was a few groups of people, namely Cornell, Soil and Water Conservation District in the city, NYC'S, Gaia Institute, and a few others. They wanted to establish some urban soil courses in universities throughout the city, mainly to increase awareness and offer career opportunities to urban students, where that has been a big void for a very long time, both in the natural sciences and the urban soil sciences. Timing is everything, as usual. So they had a hard time gaining traction back then, but 5 years ago, it's hard to believe it's been that long, we got together, the NYC'S, the New York City Soil and Water Conservation District, Gaia Institute, and Brooklyn College to kind of to push this through. And what happened is we kind of expanded it into something more of a platform for urban soils in the city. And to kind of give ourselves some structure, we work through 5 divisions: soil testing and technical services. So we have a lab and on-site assistance, education and engagement through programs and workshops, data bank and exchange. So it'd be a home base for all soils information and resources, forging a research agenda in urban soils, not just for the New York City, but for all cities. And then obviously the big one that we can't live without is collaboration. So from day one, we hit the ground literally by just trying to get an idea of what the resource gaps were in the city. We used to get a lot of phone calls to the Soil and Water Conservation District, people needing information on soils, but A, either not knowing what they needed, but knowing they need something, and B, not knowing who to turn to. And that was mainly from, entities, private sectors and government agencies. And then we realized there's a lot of people on the ground that also don't have a one-stop shop to get some soils information and help. So we literally would go visit gardeners and community gardens and schools and individuals, private and public entities, to see what they needed. And we did a lot of site visits, and the demands and the requests were coming in a lot. So we knew we hit a jackpot there. And then when we launched our first symposium in 2016, it was really evident that this was the resource everyone was looking for. We kind of were acting like the neutral zone where government agencies could communicate with their sister agencies, where government could talk to researchers, could talk to the end users, could talk to the layperson, and we offered like a playing field where we could be the conduit for these really vital conversations and communications. So year one, we were open to the public, and it really felt like an overdue big family reunion. So we knew we had something good going, and we went from there. So our big starting point really was education. As our interactions with soils are growing in the city, to this day, we realize we really don't have all the knowledge and the resources to deal with some of the issues that come up. Urban soil science has been around forever, and urban soils, believe it or not, is quite unique, where the human factor plays a really, really dominant role in kind of the soil development. So there's a lot that science doesn't know, and it really is a soil of the people. So I don't think we can continue in a science world alone. It's got to be very interactive with the social science and humanities, because in a fabric like a city, there's no standalone part to the whole ecosystem. So we're on the ground meeting people face to face. It's very resource intensive, but we to this day have found no better replacement for that interaction. Every person in the city interacts with the soil differently. Every pocket of soil in the city is different. It's a very heterogeneous area, especially when you think that humans are the biggest movers of stuff. So there's definitely no one size fits all solution or approach to dealing with people and their issues and their soil issues in the city. So this is also the best way to solicit good feedback and get people really involved and feel like their voice is important. As people learn, they get really excited and they realize that they can be part of this, and that is critical. When they get access to learning about soils and just getting the fundamentals of what soils are, what they do and how they do it, they get really empowered to then be able to make their own decisions, and they're not looking for that silver bullet solution. They're willing to try different strategies and become kind of their own remediators of their contaminated garden, for example. And I think that's very critical going forward, because when you're founded in strong education, then you can, wade through any future issues that come up, including something like what we've gone through these days with the pandemic. So our take-home message here is always, get out there, see what the people need, learn in the process, and love what you do. So soils really are not exempt from the food web or farm environment, and you know, even scientists to this day have had a hard time understanding that concept that we indeed do have soils, and they play as much of a critical role in an urban area as they do in a rural area. They are the center of our universe in the city, from the building we live in to the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, the shirt that's on our back. And this concept alone can really revolutionize how people think about their decisions that they make for their daily life and what the real heartbeat of the city is. So in cities, the human factor is huge. Like I said, we are really good at creating end products, reacting to our consequences, putting all of our energy, fixing our mistakes. And we're very often on the right side of the equation and very seldom on the left side of the equation. But the left side of the equation is where we want to be today. And it's not up to the scientists alone to get us there. It's up to the whole community, to that one person that makes up the community. So how do we get people interested and get people involved and get people to work together? As it's very difficult to get different disciplines to collaborate. There are always complications there. So how do we do it? Getting on the left side of the equation so we can grow sustainably, again, starts by disseminating and creating access to soils and their soils education. Because through education, you earn love, and through love, you gain respect. And then that way, everybody's aware that soils exist in the city. So do people care? Yeah, they care. People's daily life and quality of life relies on soils. Soils play a pivotal role in the health of our cities and our environment and its sustainability. They house the immune system of the earth through their microbes, and they support life. And soils in cities specifically offer sanity and health. You know, they are our common ground, so they're our common culture, and they're our common language. So in cities, I really honestly believe that soils unite. And soils are very simple in their function. As Susan Day was saying earlier today, they are very simple in their function because they support life, but they're very complex in this particular simplicity. So here our main message is that, first of all, soils are diverse. They're extremely diverse in cities, especially in their applications. So, which means there's a lot of room to learn and grow, and a role for everyone in the process, which is why, again, we believe we needed this platform. So there is a huge demand out there and an interest in accessing soil science and soil resources. And in the city, soils have become a little bit of a fad. There's a big popular movement towards, becoming a soil expert because there's so many resources available online. But the trick is with soils, unless you get down and dirty with them, you miss a big part of it. And it's extremely important to get the right education, not the fake education. So to be able to offer people a true home base, to get access to that is very critical. And to let people understand that there's things that science knows and there's things that science still doesn't know, or I should say what we in science have not yet discovered. And that's important for people to really feel like they can play a role in understanding that their personal interaction with soils will help stimulate the future of soil science in the cities. So do people care? Yeah, they care, because when you make soil science accessible to everyone, the movement begins. Look at New York City's agricultural system, for example. It's the largest urban ag system in the US. There are 600 community gardens that are managed by the city. There are 700 that are not managed by the city, but managed by individuals, and that doesn't even include rooftop farms and schools. And then there's 900 stormwater, green infrastructure gardens that are growing food. So in the city, we can't compete with soils per acreage, but we sure as heck can compete in soils per capita. So just imagine soils information and education resources being available to 8 million people and 8 million people getting it. What a change in a movement that would be in a city towards a more sustainable way of life. So again, this movement has led to more informed citizens and people that have kind of taken ownership and decided to share their love for soils. And I'm going to pick on one of our examples here, which is our art extension service. The day we launched it in 2018, it took off like wildfire. I could probably do a PowerPoint just on the art extension service alone, since it's a real portal for people and soil science to, peoples and soils to get together. Here, the artists really push the research envelope and territory, and they work alongside with soil scientists to really break down the walls, disseminate this information to wider audiences. And that, in turn, offers a really wide invitation for more people to get involved. So it's really important to keep striving as we're growing to think of different ways and mediums to help get this information across, and not only get information across, but get people to participate and interact, because that way we'll really start to understand what kind of decisions we need to make and what kind of research we need to get us there. So the art extension service, again, is another way anybody on this Zoom meeting can interact with USI as well. So how to make these soil resources more accessible to a wider audience. And again, one of our real successes is our platform, which are the symposia. Here, you know, we really emphasize the holistic approach, where we really offer soil science and community interest to different backgrounds and different disciplines. And here we really offer a level playing field. No one here is an expert. We don't need more papers, we need more conversation, we need more interaction and collaboration. And when people are sharing the same room and eating the same food, and you know, whether the talk is technical or not technical, everybody's in it together. It really offers dynamic dialogue and creates very unique relationships. So this has been a real success point for us, and we're on our 5th one, and we're going to do ours virtually too this year, unfortunately. But this Soil Symposium here in LA has been a real encouraging example of what can be done. So we hope you join us for the whole month of October. So our takeaways of what we've learned so far, I think to make sure that people join in the building process, feedback is the most important thing here. You need feedback on the papers that are given out on soil science. You need feedback on the resources that are out there. You need feedback on what is needed and what's not needed. Without feedback, you're not building the platform. And to steal this from the Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. I changed a bit. If you start to build it, they will come. So in the beginning, we had a lot of response to the resources we were providing, but we weren't even able to restock the shelves. People wanted more and more. So basically people were buying tickets and we hadn't even built the airplane yet. And so at first it made us nervous, but then we realized, you know, to be a platform, it's kind of scary, but you invite everybody to do it with you, and everybody is into it. So the best platform is the one that's built together with your community, with your entire city. And to move forward, we want to keep striving to create opportunities for all, whoever and wherever you are. Meaning, urban soils are not only specific to your city. We need to connect with all the other cities around the globe to really get access to all the best trial and errors and learning experiences. And a global field school is something we're working on. That will be an opportunity for people to really get into the field and learn soils from the ground up. And it would be kind of like an untraditional school without all the traditional obstacles and hurdles, open to everybody and anyone. And to have these global field schools connected through different cities around the globe really offers a unique opportunity to get into urban soils and discover all aspects. We also want to offer public labs. We'll start off in New York City, of course. And this also is a way for, you know, academia and non-academia to have access to soil science and soil science assistance so that they can also pursue their own research. A collaborative research network is, again, a collaboration from different disciplines and different sectors as we push a research agenda for urban soils and to make sure we can cover all aspects and really get into it. And then again, satellite soil resource hubs. So there are a few partners of ours who have started kind of like, you know, sub-entities of the USI. They've taken the resources that we're providing and taken what can apply to their needs locally. And so they've created these like mini USIs And the idea there is to stay connected. I don't believe we need more silos. I think we need more hyphae connecting us all in the work that we're doing throughout the globe. And I think that will really strengthen our movement as we head towards, changes in the climate and work towards sustainability. So in a nutshell, I hope I covered some bases. And again, I couldn't say it all. So I would love to continue the conversation anytime. Thank you to all. And the take-home message again is it takes a village. We all have to do it together. Thanks.
Thank you, Tatiana. That was wonderful. So we have several minutes for question and answer. We are starting to compile some questions. While we're doing this, I have a question for you. And one thing that I know when I was working in the city, a soil and water conservation district was set up specifically for the 5 boroughs. And I know that they've played a significant role with getting NRCS presence in the city, getting the soil survey done and things like that. So can you expand on how important that's been for New York? Because I know in LA, they don't necessarily have a soil district. And so I was wondering if you can share some of your insights on that.
So yeah, that's a great question, Rich. So the Soil and Water Conservation District was a real propeller for basically working on the ground with the people in the city to understand what the city wants and needs. The NRCS provides an incredible foundation in science and soil science, offering an urban soil survey, which the one in New York City is phenomenal. What happens here is the NRCS provides these great resources, but there's a real kind of gap in relating that to the people on the ground in the city. So the Soil and Water Conservation District developed this partnership with the NRCS, and through that, more partnerships were created to work together to make the soil survey. We are still at that point in the city where the benefits of using the soil survey still hasn't reached everybody. So we are working towards developing a series of regular workshops. We did one once where the people who were aware of the soil survey came for a training and workshop to understand how useful it can be to them, and also inform the NRCS where they could improve in its application in the future. And we couldn't even fulfill the amount of requests people wanted more and more of these workshops. So I think it's extremely pivotal to be able to offer all the phenomenal resources that NRCS has, but the NRCS doesn't always have the bandwidth to reach every single person. In New York City, there's 8 million people that need to get it. So the Soil and Water Conservation was a real good starting point to get that going.
I just want to mention that Randy Riddle mentioned that there's a Santa Monica Resource Conservation District, which is similar function, different name in California. So I stand corrected.
A really important point is that there are 3,000 soil and water conservation districts in the nation. And the interesting thing about the New York City one, it is the only urban one. So perhaps that was one of the reasons why we were able to take something that was naturally an agricultural or rural science and bring it into the city and use NRCS to be that highway. So that was a big point there.
Yeah, and I will mention that in 1983, I was participating in a group that was trying to get a conservation district in New York City. And it took 11 years for that to happen. So it wasn't easy. Okay.
Good things aren't easy.
Yeah, good things aren't easy. That's right. So Yuzhuan Chen has got a question. She was interested in, what are some aspects of the New York City model that you went through that, based on what you've heard so far, could be pertain to Los Angeles? And so what were some of the more important aspects of what you're doing if we were to prioritize? making a similar effort in LA, what would you prioritize as well?
I think the most important thing is to make a platform where the scientists and the researchers and the government and the community people have access to each other. So through the symposium is a great way of doing it when it offers a platform for everybody, where everybody feels like they have an equal voice in the conversation. At our symposia, we never dominate any one session with one discipline or sector. So we make sure we have a well-rounded representation in the speaker role. And in addition to that, we make sure that the audience is as important as the speaker, so that the speaker's there to kind of just entice the conversation and get the ball rolling, but the real meat of the symposium is in the discussion part. So that way you really get aspects and perspectives on what the discussion is. And then again, we can't deliver enough one-on-one workshops. I think it's really important to stretch your resources, and you know, maybe it's not the most economical way of doing things, but when, you know, money should never be the decider here, we go literally, we try and fulfill everybody's request, whether it's the one personal home gardener, or if it's the community gardener, or it's a school, or it's a government entity. We offer the trainings, the workshops, whatever resources they need. So I think my takeaway is be resource intensive, because then you won't miss anything.
Thank you. And I just want to expand a little bit on the symposium. Aren't you trying some, what was it, an urban soil day festival kind of thing approach? You might want to explain that as well.
Right. So we really try to drive the point that it's never soil, it's always soils. So we wanted to have an urban soils day to celebrate the diversity of soils, diversity of people. And so last year we were a little ambitious. We had a symposium and a workshop day and field tours and then a festival. And the idea there is that, as you all know, when you go to somebody's house for a party, the party is always in the kitchen. So we wanted to stimulate a place where people could really kind of, in a very relaxed way, understand what resources are out there and network. And that's through art, through music, through food, through soil science. So it was kind of like a diverse echo of all the different ways soils reach people's lives, and to make that, you know, fun but very educational at the same time. So we're hoping to try and do that in a virtual way this year. So bear with us. And if you have any suggestions or have any ideas, do reach out and let us know.
Sure. So time for one quick question. Someone asked, does New York City still run its soil bank where you can get soil?
Yeah, that has, I would say it's still at its best beginning stages. It's basically like kind of like a Craigslist exchange for soils. We have enough clean parent material, sediments in the city to cover New York City and all its contaminated areas. So I think it's a beautiful program where people don't have to rely on importing soils or exporting them. We can reuse these clean sediments in the city mixed with great compost, and they've now developed something called Pure Soil NYC, which is an easier exchange to do for the garden size, whereas before the Clean Soils Bank was a little bit broader and it was for very large projects. So now the Pure Soils program is for that community garden, that school, or that personal gardener that really needs some clean soils for their garden. So yeah, it's very much alive.
Great. So we're going to have to stop there, unfortunately. Again, thank you so much. You guys are doing some incredibly great stuff. You're the role model for the world, I think. And thank you for coming. Well, not coming. Thank you for joining us virtually. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to further exchanges of ideas and information. So thank you so much.